All right, as folks log on, you are all here on time, so I don't want to make you wait too much longer. So I'm going to do a couple of technical slides, Jen, and then I'll toss it over to you. So with this software, you can communicate with us. You should be able to see the control panel. If you can't see the control panel itself, you just want to hit this orange button. That will enlarge it, so you can ask Jen or I questions. As we're presenting, we may not get right to it. We'll either take it in our Q&A session, or I may throw some questions at Jen throughout the presentation if they come up. So we'll just kind of see how things go. Kristen said, you know, everything's looking good, so appreciate that feedback. If you don't see the panel, again, just hit that orange arrow and that will open it up. All your microphones have been muted, so don't worry about the background noise, anything like that. We mentioned we'll take questions at the end. And if you raise your hand, especially during the Q&A part, we want this to be a forum as much as possible. So I will call on you, I will unmute your microphone, and then on your end, you just have to do the same thing, and then you can ask a verbal question. So before we, I don't want to get to my presentation. Before we get started, are there any questions you can ask in the question one? Kristen, we appreciate you being here as well. Let's see, just making sure we don't have any technical issues. Everybody should be able to see us. Let's see. All right. So I'm going to go ahead, Jen, and share your screen. Jen's going to lead us off with the presentation, and just like before, you'll see it pop up on your end, Jen, and you can go ahead and share it. All right. And Miss Jen is presenting via the phone because I know you have all had this over the last year. Everything works well until you start a presentation. So poor Jen is doing it over the phone, but we'll make sure you can hear it, and she's going to give a great presentation from Carteret County's perspective. So Jen, take it away.
Just getting to the beginning here. My name is Jen Sawyer. I'm the Emergency Management Coordinator for Carteret County. I want to first thank the National Weather Service office in Newport for their continued partnership, and especially Eric for his help in coordinating this event and providing the technical assistance and the virtual platform. Eric, are you getting some feedback?
Let's see. I'm not as much as it's just a little low.
Okay, I'm just going to look for having too many issues, but basically, again, we prefer to have this meeting in person, but we're thankful to have this alternative so we can ensure the health and safety of all of our participants. It only takes one storm to change your life and community. For many of us, the impacts from floods are still fresh in our minds. The system brought significant flooding, many road closures, and prolonged utility outages. Some areas in Carteret County were without power for 15 days. We had homes and businesses that were destroyed, and many residents that were displaced from their homes. The point I really want to drive home tonight is that Hurricane Florence was a minor hurricane by definition, but it brought significant impacts to Carteret County. We could control the weather, but we do know that preparation is the best protection against the dangers of a hurricane. Carteret County takes hurricane preparedness seriously. The Emergency Services Department maintains and updates the county's emergency operations plan, which outlines the coordinated actions that's taken by county, municipal, and public safety officials during emergencies. The county also activates its Emergency Operations Center, which serves as a centralized location of emergency response and recovery operations. The staff that support the Emergency Operations Center must complete required federal training and participate in annual exercises. We also maintain formal agreements with our state and local partners to provide assistance if it's needed. So what can you do to get prepared for a hurricane? There are 6 steps to emergency preparedness, which include making a plan, and form. We're going to talk more about each step as we go on. If you haven't already, make a plan today. Start by considering your to storm surge or flooding? Do you live in a mobile home, or are you dependent on electricity? You'll want to tailor your plan to your family's needs and include special considerations for children, seniors, and pets. Be sure to include a list of emergency contact information for important phone numbers such as doctors, schools, insurance adjusters, and emergency services. And write your plan down. Discuss it with your family. There are a lot of resources available to help you develop your plan. One website I'd like to highlight is readync.org, and that's a great website with a wealth of information to help you get started on your plan today. Evacuation should be a part of every family's hurricane plan. Know where you would go if you're told to evacuate and how you would get there. Officials realize that evacuation orders cause serious disruption in normal daily activities of our citizens, but officials also realize that a significant portion of our citizens live in vulnerable areas that are vulnerable to the impacts of severe weather and hurricanes, and it's sometimes safer to relocate to other areas. Evacuation decisions in Carteret County are made by the County Control Group, which consists of the mayor of each of the 11 municipalities and the chairman of the Carteret County Board of Commissioners. This team of leaders is supported by the National Weather Service, County Emergency Services, and other support partners to make these critical decisions regarding evacuation, also state of emergency declarations, and emergency shelter activations. All Carteret County residents should know their evacuation zone. There are 3 zones in Carteret County, that are Zone A, Zone B, and Zone C. You can find your zone by going to the Know Your Zone website at knowyourzone.nc.gov. An evacuation order, if it's issued, will include the time that the evacuation should begin, the time when evacuation and your preparation should be completed, if and when both acts will be controlled, when and where emergency shelters will open, an evacuation zone or zones that the order applies to. Hurricane evacuation routes in Carteret are blue and white evacuation route signs. The evacuation routes out of Carteret County are US Highway 70, NC Highway 101, and NC Highway 58. Residents and property owners should contact their town halls for specific information on reentry permit policies. Please don't wait until the storm is threatening the coast to obtain your reentry pass. The permits are displayed on the driver's side dashboard of the vehicle and allow for law enforcement officers to easily identify property owners, and that helps improve the traffic flow at local checkpoints. The medically fragile is a voluntary program that helps us identify residents that may need additional assistance during an emergency. The county can also provide transportation for residents who are unable to self-evacuate to a shelter, and the county ensures that special provisions are made for sheltering residents who require assistance with mobility, oxygen, routine monitoring, and medication administration. Residents that require greater levels of care, such as a hospital bed or life support equipment, should make alternative plans with the help from their doctor or healthcare professional. To register, a medical form must be completed. You can find one on the Emergency Services website, or residents may call our office and request a form be mailed to them, or they can stop by and pick one up during business hours. Carteret County may operate emergency shelters in the event an evacuation order is issued. Due to COVID-19 and other concerns, we encourage you to look at alternative options to shelters. Try to make a plan to stay with friends, family, or at a hotel in case you need to evacuate. Emergency shelters should be your last resort. Shelter openings as well as evacuation orders will be announced through local television, radio stations, social media, code red, website. Local officials have announced that it's open. So if you decide not to evacuate, make sure you're prepared to shelter in place at home. You'll want to anticipate prolonged power outages, anticipate communication outages and challenges, and understand that cable, internet, and cellular phones may become unavailable. Emergency responders may not be available until any storm passes, so make sure you have your emergency equipment. If you're staying home, stay safe by remaining indoors until the storm is over. Tune into your local news. Battery-powered lantern. If flooding occurs, use electrical appliances. Make sure you have an escape route if you Be sure to read the manufacturer's directions for operation. Regardless if you have water, medication, and supplies to last for 7 days. Make sure your emergency items on this list consider your family might have supplies for children, seniors, and pets. You'll also want to take and hand sanitizer in your emergency kit. Once you've gathered store them in 1 or 2 easy-to-carry containers, such as a plastic bin or a duffel bag. It's important that you stay informed before, during, and after a hurricane. Be sure to monitor your local radio and television stations for important updates, and be sure to have a NOAA weather radio with extra batteries for severe weather alerts throughout the storm. The Carteret County website and Emergency Services Facebook page are great sources of information. If you live in a municipality, I encourage you to follow your county social media and check their websites for updates. There are also various apps available that you can use on your smartphone or cellular device to stay informed throughout the event. Make sure you've registered your cell phone and landlines for the county's emergency notification system, Code Red. Code Red's a telephone communication service that allows the county to quickly notify citizens and visitors about emergencies in the county. You can choose to be notified by phone call, email, or text message. Visit our website or call our office if you need help or don't have access to the internet. Get signed up today. Lastly, I just want to encourage everyone to visit the Carteret County Emergency Services website. There's a lot of helpful information available, and I'm also available to assist with hurricane planning or to answer questions and provide assistance related to available county resources. Our office also has copies of preparedness information, and we're happy to share these resources with you.
All right, Jen, thank you very much. You're a real trooper because I know the audio is just an issue, and I apologize for that. So Jen, I'm going to mute. I think I'm going to hang up on this end, but just message me through the webinar itself during our Q&A part. And Jen, your audio came in and out sometimes, so it's nothing that she did. It's just the way it is sometimes with this software and then kind of the age we're in terms of presentations being virtual. So I'll take back control, Jen. Nice job, very, very nice job. And what we can do, Jen, afterwards, let me get this in play mode. What we can do is we can follow up with a PDF because that was an excellent piece of information. I'm usually working so much at the weather service during a storm. I learned a few things, and Jen did this last year. So just kudos to you. That was a fantastic presentation. Jen, what we'll do is if we've got any questions, I will kind of field them and message you back and forth, and we can answer them that way since the audio was having issues. So when you get a chance, Jen, you don't have to worry about the phone stuff. Just send me a quick question or chat and let me know that you can see everything and correspond with me. So Jen covered the Carteret County part. My name is Eric Hayden. I'm a meteorologist with the Weather Service in Morehead City. So we are going to cover the hurricane awareness part. So the meteorology, what we should focus in on. And as always, we want you to ask questions. So Jen had a lot of good information. If anything wasn't clear, you want some follow-up, ask us some questions and we'll get that addressed tonight. As far as the Weather Service is concerned, we are located in Carteret County, down the road from you, for most of us, in Newport. We do cover all of eastern North Carolina, so places like Greenville and Jacksonville and out 20 nautical miles into the ocean itself, we are responsible for. We're one of 122 local offices. We've got offices in Raleigh and Wilmington. The Richmond or Wakefield office covers the rest of North Carolina. But again, our local county is covered by the National Weather Service office here in Newport. As far as work hours go, we are open 24/7, just like first responders and police and fire, and Jen can attest to this. Emergencies happen all the time, including weekends and holidays. So we are staffed for those emergencies. We have a staff of around 20 folks. That can vary throughout the year, and then it can also vary depending on the storm or the weather itself. So this is a picture of Florence. If you were to come visit me on an overnight shift when it's quiet, only 2 of us there. So we flex our staffing based on the weather itself. We are located in a higher area of Newport. We have a reinforced brick building with hurricane shutters and a generator. So we stay no matter what. If it's really life-threatening or if we have a technical issue, if it's a storm issue, we have a storm shelter in the office itself. And if it's a technical issue or we just need to transfer control, we have 2 backup offices in case that happens. Our website is the best place to get weather information. It's weather.gov/Morehead City. You can really go as in-depth as you want. This is a picture of our website. You can click anywhere on the map or enter your city or zip code, and that will bring you to the general vicinity of the forecast. So I live over in Cape Carteret, click on that. It gets me roughly where I am, but it's a Google-based map, so you can zoom into the street itself. Maybe you live north of Highway 24 or south of Highway 24. You can get a specific forecast, bookmark that link. In addition, you can get other things such as an hourly weather graph, detailed 7-day forecast. So a lot of real good information is on our website itself. Another way you can get information is our social media channels. We are all over the place, including Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. But most recently, we are also on Instagram. We use social media to convey the message. Our website is good. You're going to want to bookmark it, look it through, kind of, be in tune with it because it can give a lot of information. It's kind of hard sometimes to digest everything. And that's where Facebook and Twitter and YouTube come in. This is an example of Florence talking about not letting our guard down. And this is a briefing that we post to local officials. We put part of that on YouTube as well. So the caption says the time to prepare is now. So my question for you is, have you started preparing yet? So we've got a couple poll questions and we want you to show some interaction. Just make sure everybody's still with us and we're doing good. So Bill and Jan and Kristen and some other folks in here, appreciate you joining us tonight. So have you prepared for hurricane season yet? Now, truth be told, I'm always preaching, preparedness, but sometimes I don't prepare soon enough myself. But this year I did a good job, got some water the other day, so I'm starting to work on my new kit for this year. So we'll close up the poll and show you the results. And the poll results are 50-50, kind of a split in terms of those that have prepared. About half of us have and half of us have not. So the reason why we want to show you this poll and talk about it is now really is the time. Let's face it, it's human nature for us to wait until Isaias or Arthur or Hermine or Irene or Florence or Dorian approach. What happens? What happens to the water? It's gone. What happens to the gas? It's gone. So now's the time to start slowly stocking up on stuff. And the reason is hurricane season is a long season in the Carolinas. Officially, it starts June 1st. However, we have had storms as early as May, and you just have to look back to last year with Tropical Storm Arthur. This graph shows the peak of hurricane season. The red is hurricane and tropical storms, the yellow just hurricanes. You can see we slowly creep up through the summer, peak about the middle part of September when we had Dorian and Florence. But we have storms well into the fall here across eastern North Carolina, including Matthew and Sandy. So the bottom line with this is now is the time to prepare, to think about it. Do not wait for the storm itself. If you need information, our website, we continue to redesign this. We put everything, all our effort into this website so that you can use it this week, which is Hurricane Preparedness Week, and throughout hurricane season. I want you going back to this page prior to the storm. Now, I know it's hard to stock up, before a storm, we run out of things, but money-wise, let's face it, it's hard to buy a lot of food and water all at once. Grocery bills are high to begin with. So I know a gentleman from the town of Beaufort, I kind of got this from him during one of these hurricane forums. I can't remember who it was to give him credit, but he had a good analogy or a good example. If things are tight at home, add a couple cans of non-perishable to your grocery bill a little bit each week. That way you're not getting everything at once. That case of water, that might be too much, get it in smaller quantities. Slowly build up your kit of food and water through the year so that you're not spending a lot of money all at once right before the storm itself. We always say have at least 3 days of food, water, medicine, cash on hand, gas, and things like that. I would say that's the low bar, that you should at least have that if you live in Carteret County. We really are pushing you more toward the 7-day mark. And the reason for that is we have experience, unfortunately, with Florence. Some of us did not get power back for 3, 4, 5 days. Some of us had trouble getting places. Even if you could get somewhere, maybe they were out of an item. So again, the longer you can stay put at home, you're out of harm's way. You don't have to stress about going out to get anything. Jen showed you a lot of information for the county itself. The other thing to consider is evacuation routes and maybe just getting out of here to family farther inland. That is also another option. We want you to think about that now. So you have a plan in place. Hey, I'm going to stay. So this is my kit. This is my 7 days to be on my own. Or I also have a plan A and B to go south or north and get out of town if need be, if the storm is really bad. One way you can find that out is we do briefings on big events such as winter weather or hurricanes, and that is also on our website. Instead of clicking on the map or any links, you just go to the bottom and there's a graphic called Weather Hazard Briefing, and we will detail that information for you. One thing we want to stress is please pay attention to official forecast. I am getting hungry. I did miss dinner somehow. I don't know how I did that. Jen can attest to this. We get busy sometimes. But these are spaghetti miles. All these lines, I'm sure you've seen this on Facebook or even some of the local TV stations. They do have utility with a meteorologist or somebody with experience. When they're real close together like this, that means we're confident because a bunch of solutions or possibilities are showing the same thing. When they diverge or they separate, our confidence is lower and it's not as confident. But don't worry about this. The men and women at the Hurricane Center are looking at all of the models and they have 175 years of experience. We always get the question, is the European model the best, the GFS? We believe in a consensus forecasting, men and women with experience looking at all the model data to make that forecast. And if you don't believe me, look at the improvements in the track forecast over the last 20 to 30 years. This is 2019 versus 1999. We didn't just pick those years. Those were significant years for us, of course, Floyd and Dorian. The big circle is our average error 3 days out back in 1999. So if Miss Jen was sitting in the EOC preparing for Hurricane Floyd and Carteret County, the only thing we would be able to say 3 days out is the center of Floyd could be anywhere from Southern Virginia through all of North Carolina, South Carolina, and Eastern Georgia. That was the technology then. That was what we could tell our local officials. Now, flip forward to 2019 with Dorian, we were able to tell them that it should be somewhere in the general vicinity of the North Carolina, South Carolina border, or roughly near or just off the coast from Wilmington. So the improvement has been remarkable with track forecasting. The one thing I do want to caution you about is we still have a little ways to go with regards to intensity. You may have seen it with the Gulf Coast storms last year. You may have seen it in the good way with Florence. It was a Category 4 storm wind-wise, but it decreased, at least as regards to wind speed, as it made landfall. 3 of the most powerful storms in hurricanes on our record, the Labor Day storm in the 30s, Hurricane Andrew and Camille, 3 days before they made landfall, they were only tropical storms, and they became powerful hurricanes in just a matter of a couple days. So please keep that in mind. Our intensity forecast still can be off a little bit, so don't let your guard down. If a storm's approaching, you may have to make those decisions, to either stay or evacuate based on the information, and we want you to do that based on official guidance from the Hurricane Center, the Weather Service Office, and of course Jen and others at Carteret County Emergency Services. Our website again is Morehead City. Weather.gov/Morehead City/hurricane prep. Please make sure to get those kits ready and prepare for the upcoming season. A couple products I want to show you that you may be aware of, a few others you may not have seen before. One is a tropical weather outlook. This is usually issued June 1st, 4 times a day. The change this year is it's issued on May 15th, so a little bit earlier, and it highlights potential activity in the Atlantic Ocean and the Gulf of Mexico. So areas that we may need to watch over the next couple of days for cyclone activity. And this is a good product for storms well out to sea or even close by. Just a heads up before it even gets a name, before it's making impact. It's a good, if you want to start your day and you want to be on top of tropical weather before it even hits the local news, the hurricane outlook, the tropical weather outlook is really, really good to look at. Show of virtual hands. Who has seen this graphic before? Should be all of us, whether you're watching Jerry Jackson, Donnie Cox, any of your favorite local meteorologists, Jim Cantori on the Weather Channel, always showing the forecast cone from the National Hurricane Center. This shows the most probable path for the center of the storm. You might think, well, what else does it show? That's the main thing on this forecast cone. It does not show the impacts. It doesn't say how much rain you're going to have. It doesn't say how much storm surge you're going to get. It gives you a general idea that the center of the storm should pass somewhere in this cone. Keep in mind a couple things. 1/3 of the time, the center of the storm is going to not track in that path. So sometimes, we may be of error. The other thing I want to point out is, even if the track is right, in this case it's Florence hitting to our south, a hurricane is not a dot. Despite Florence hitting Wrightsville Beach, did New Bern have impacts? Did Carteret County have impacts? Yes, yes, yes. So the forecast cone just shows you where the center will be. If you're anywhere in the general area of it, you should be paying attention to the storm itself. All right, I see a hand raised. Let's see if we got, so I see Jan asked, raised a little while ago. And she might have lowered it. So yeah, maybe that was a mistake, Jan. That's no problem. I just thought we may have had a verbal question. Not a problem at all. A couple more graphics, then we're going to get to some of the impacts that a storm can bring. First things first, the earliest reasonable onset of tropical storm force winds. Sounds really, really fancy. All this is, it's a reasonable worst case. If you're done your evacuation, if you're done your planning, you're done your boarding up your homes, by this time, you should be fine. So in the case of Florence, we would tell folks the earliest that these strong winds could get here is sometime late Wednesday night into Thursday morning. It gives you an idea days before, when do I have to get my stuff done by? So I vividly remember Florence working, having a teensy bit of daylight at home, And I know each day I had to hit the ground running as soon as I got home to get my house prepared, bring stuff in. I'm a big gardener, so get the garden ready, make the decisions to send the family out of the county and stuff like that. And I knew that I had until Wednesday evening to make that decision based on that graphic. The other one is the most likely. This is when we do think the winds will actually arrive. So you may see this as two different formats. This example is from Arthur last May. It's out to sea, but again, gives you another flavor. It shows time and when the window is closing, because that's when we expect the winds to really pick up. All right. Everybody loves the Saffron-Simpson scale, the category scale. We talk about it all the time. And I've been here for a couple of years now, so it's hard to believe I'm coming up on 4 years. But one of the first things that stood out to me when I got down here is I'm not gonna leave unless it's a 3. I'm not gonna leave unless it's a 2. Or, Irene was a 1 and I made it through this, and I'm not gonna leave because, I've been through a 1 or 2 or 3 before. This Saffron-Simpson scale is very useful for depicting the strength of the hurricane based on wind. Again, the scale is useful for the strength of the hurricane based on wind. Says nothing about rainfall. Says nothing about the storm, how large it is, how slow moving it is. Are we going to have bad storm surge? What about tornadoes? So it's useful for wind, but it is not useful as a guide for when you should be leaving. You should pay attention to what the impacts are. And it's not something that you're going to have to decipher or wonder or guess. Those briefings we send out to the website, Jen passes them on, our social media pages, we really highlight what we think is going to happen. And since 2010, we've had a lot of Category 1 hurricanes, and unfortunately, they've resulted in 175 direct deaths and over $100 billion in damage. Just Category 1s. So again, when you see these pictures, remind yourself that you can have bad damage, as we saw with Florence, from something that is on the lower end of a wind-only scale. So when we talk hurricanes, I know everybody's drawn toward how strong is it wind-wise. Please focus on these other aspects. I put them all on there for you: rainfall, storm surge, rip currents, wind, and tornadoes. And I kind of gave it away a little bit. I should have asked this earlier, so you probably know which one it might not be now, but maybe I'm just tricking you. So another poll question, we'll give you about 30 seconds to answer it. What kills the most folks in a tropical cyclone with regards to impacts or things that can occur? Is it wind? Is it water, or is it tornadoes? And you are either too smart, which I think it might be, or I helped you a little bit there. So yes, 100% of you got it right. Outstanding job. It's water, water, water. That is what we need to be concerned with ourselves. And since you are all super smart and you got it, your homework now is to share that with a neighbor. We have a lot of new folks moving down. That will continue. We have a strong military presence in our community. That will continue. Those folks cycle through. So you may be experienced with this. Share it with a neighbor. Share it with your members of church. Educate them. It may seem like you're saying it over and over again, but again, we have a transient community. A lot of folks are coming and going, so they need to hear this message each and every year, because for some of them, it may be their first time. This is a graphic. We've shown it for years, but it reinforces what we're talking about. Half the storm deaths up through 2012 were storm surge related. About a third were flooding. And when you factor in surf and offshore, about 90% of deaths. Wind and tornado, 8% and 3% respectively. So just backing up that you all got the poll question right. Recently, we have made improvements with storm surge. Still 83% of folks are dying because of water, but a very small amount is storm surge. And some of the messaging that has gone on over the last couple of years with regards to storm surge, we do appreciate you spreading the word as much as you can in the community, specifically with turn around, don't drown. Most of the flood-related deaths in tropical cyclones and just flooding in general are in vehicles. Folks going around barricades, folks traveling at night, not realizing how deep the water is. So it's not somebody being on an Atlantic beach and the water comes up all of a sudden. It's somebody driving on Highway 70 saying, hey, I know the water's across the road, but I think I can make it, and they try to go around. And the reason why I'm asking for your help is, as scientists, we will continue to try to improve the science, try to get as accurate as we can. But where we're having issues is the messaging. We need people to understand it. And this is a good example of that. This is a 5-day forecast from Hurricane Florence. The yellow shading is roughly 15 inches of rain. Anywhere in pink is 20, 25, 30 inches of rain predicted for Southeast North Carolina. And this is a track of Florence. So a lot of you may be familiar with that. And a lot of you probably realize we had a lot of rain, and you may know the numbers, but look at how this matches up. Anywhere in pink is more than 20 inches of rain, and we had that across our area. So you cannot get better with that forecast. The track was dead on, the rainfall amounts, again. However, we had 17 folks that unfortunately died, and 16 of them were in vehicles. Those are preventable deaths. So please get that message out. The big campaign with that is Turn Around, Don't Drown. And we always show this picture to re-emphasize this. Flowing water can really carry you away with regards to it only takes 2 feet of water to carry a moving vehicle. But you see this and you do not know how deep it is. Some roads are scoured out underneath it, so that water is much, much deeper than you realize. And this is especially true at night. You might say, hey, during the day, there's no way I would cross that road. At night, even with your high beams on, you're down a rural road and there's water across, you might not know how deep it is, especially with regards to the road even being there. So please, please, please get that message out of Turn Around, Don't Drown. We do issue products such as flash flood warnings and watches. If you get one on your phone, especially if it says flash flood emergency, you will see language like this. It's imperative to that residents remain off the road. Only venture outside if there's a threat to your well-being. So very, very strong language when you see information like that. All right, as far as storm surge goes, and I see a few folks have joined us this evening. I know things are busy. We plan to try to post some of these recordings on our website, so you'll be able to catch up with that and pass that information on as well. And we've got your email, so we can send you some copies of the presentation as well. So we're just talking about all of the impacts that can occur with storms, not to focus on just a category. We certainly had that lesson with Dorian and Florence. The example on the bottom left shows you the velocity of the water. This is on Ocracoke. This is during Dorian. And then the boat on the upper left is, of course, up in New Bern. 1,800 folks rescued during Florence, 4 to 7 feet of storm surge on Ocracoke from Dorian. So we kind of just missed most of the impacts of Dorian, especially down east did get some, but the worst was certainly toward Ocracoke. We do issue storm surge watches and warnings for life-threatening storm surge of 3 feet or greater. So that would be the areas in purple on this map on the left and on the right. One of the most useful things that you get prior to a storm is this inundation map. This shows you a reasonable worst case scenario, a 10% chance what the water level could get to. And this is for folks like Jen to make evacuation decisions, resource decisions, and for you to know how bad it could be. Not everyone will see the water this high on a map like this, but in the case of greater than 9 feet up toward New Bern, unfortunately, that is what happened. And I still remember, I don't know the exact town, it was right on the Bogue Ocean line, you know, right past Carolina Home and Garden on the left. We had some flooding. I can't remember if that's Goose Creek or one of the creeks coming off of Bogue Sound there. And the gentleman had, you know, 3 feet of water in his home. And he mentioned that when he saw values of storm surge like that off of Bogue Sound, he knew to respect it. And I don't know if he evacuated or he just knew it was very, very serious. So when you see values like that, it kind of gives you a gauge for how bad the storm will be. Starting last year, we started an experimental map, and that will continue this year. There's the inundation map. That's more for locals. Zoom in. It's on our website. This is more for TV partners and the media, just to message it from kind of the 50,000 foot level. Hey, 4 to 6 feet of storm surge in eastern North Carolina. And then you can dig down for more details. So don't just focus on the category of the storm. It's only related to wind. There's impacts such as flooding, storm surge, and rip currents. And you might say, Eric, I came here for a hurricane presentation. You haven't even talked about wind yet. Traditionally, rip currents from tropical cyclones kill more folks than the wind in our area. The example, Hurricane Lorenzo, probably don't remember that one. It never hit here. It was 2,000 miles away. It was actually the northernmost Category 5 storm in the Atlantic. So super strong storm in October. Our weather was very nice. So folks come down to the beach. If it's not thundering or lightning, it's not an imminent threat, but we can have dangerous swells well ahead of storms or well away from them. So in the example of a Florence or Dorian, the seas can get rough leading up to the storm and after it. And this example of Lorenzo, the storm's not even near us, but it's so powerful, it caused 8 rip current fatalities on the East Coast and 4 alone in North Carolina. So we spread that message of rip currents. That's why we usually include this slide in our briefings and encourage folks to remember the messaging with that. Since I have your attention, we'll talk about it, how it relates to hurricanes or just any time at the beach. Really, really stressing, swim at a beach with a lifeguard. Talk to them before you're swimming. They will tell you where it's safe to swim. They will tell you to avoid certain areas. So talk to them as you head out onto the beach first thing during the day. Pay attention to the signs and the flags. There's a reason why red flags fly. You shouldn't be all the way out in the water. Those days, maybe just your feet or your ankles. If you just want to get those wet, that's fine, but you should not be out into the waves on a red flag day because they're flying for a reason, and usually it's because of high risk of rip currents. If you're in the water, make sure everyone, especially children, has adult supervision. So even if they know how to swim, Sally, Bobby, Sue, they know how to swim, they should be fine. Always watching the kids, even adults, just to keep that eye on them. Don't become a victim to someone trying to help someone else. We're a very caring society. We do not want somebody in harm's way. If we see somebody with an issue, we're going to jump in. That's our nature. Take a step back, and you got to be smart about it. Number one, if there's a lifeguard, they are a trained professional with flotation, a device, knowing how to get out there and make a rescue. And even for those folks, it's very difficult. Try to get a lifeguard. If you're not at a lifeguarded beach, call 911. And then while you're waiting for 911 to respond, try to direct the victim to shore the correct way. So on this graphic, a rip current is a very narrow channel of water, 25, 50 feet across. So it's not very wide. In this example, the current is going out into the ocean. It's a break in the sandbar. If you try to swim against it, that's when you come into trouble. You get farther out, you panic because you can't touch. So direct those folks to the right, to the left, parallel, however you want to describe it, down the shore. So once they are out, then they can come back in. If you can throw even a boogie board or any type of flotation device to them. So in this case of a rip current, if you just throw it right in the current, it'll take it out to them. And that is a good idea as well. So a lot of good tips there. Please, please, please tell friends and family as they come to the beach. More than half our deaths in the Carolinas are from out of state. This is an example of how we message rip currents on our website or on social media, just trying to get that message out however we can. A couple more slides, and we're going to turn it over to you. At the end, or toward the end of my impact list is wind. It's not that it can't do damage. This is an example from the western part of the county, roof damage, lots of issues. Could be structural damage, trees down, power outages. And the big issue with Florence wasn't so much these values. I mean, those are impressive, but it was definitely more the fact that it was the strong duration that it lasted. Day after day, even as winds diminished a little bit, they continued to pound the area as we continued to get rain. Trees would weaken and they would continue to fall because of that. So a couple examples as we wrap things up to, again, talk about the category, because if you haven't noticed, we're trying to de-emphasize that. So I'm not sure if you remember Arthur, the hurricane, not the tropical storm, but the hurricane in 2014 made landfall near Cape Lookout. Fast moving storm, smaller storm. We had some gusty winds across Carteret County, but especially down east, definitely the biggest impact. Bigger impacts to the Outer Banks, but overall, especially west of where we are, inland up toward Greenville, not as much of an impact. It was a Category 2 storm though. Irene, I'm sure you remember if you were here, it was just a 1 though. So you might say, well, why were we so impacted by that? It was a lower number on the scale. No tricks, it didn't hit at a different location or anything like that, similar landfall, but it was much slower moving and it was a very large storm. So still the biggest impacts were down east Carteret County toward the Outer Banks, and then also the western end of the Pamlico Sound itself. But we had some heavy rainfall and then some really bad storm surge flooding in New Bern, not like we saw with Florence, but that was the benchmark for some folks with that. So just to re-emphasize, do not just focus on the category. It's important, it's part of the puzzle, but it's not the whole puzzle. You need to know how much rain, storm surge threat. And again, we will detail all these aspects with you. The last threat, as if that's not enough, tornadoes. Usually you have at least a few. Some storms you have a lot, others you just have a few. With Dorian, we had a few tornadoes, and unfortunately it was a bad one on Emerald Isle, 115-mile-per-hour winds. These tornadoes can produce isolated areas of enhanced damage. So like during Florence, we had wind issues all over. A lot of people thought those were tornadoes. Some cases they were, but by and large, a lot of it was just we had a 100-mile-per-hour windstorm. But they can produce some enhanced areas of damage. And the thing I want to emphasize with them is think back to that forecast cone map. Everybody pays attention to it. Where is the hurricane going to hit? Where is it going to hit? That is just the center. Keep in mind, well away from the center, you can get these outer rain bands and you can be impacted. So it occurred with Dorian because one of the first rain bands that moved ashore produced that tornado. But I want to emphasize it with Florence. This is a landfall down near Wilmington and Wrightsville Beach, a smattering of tornadoes across our area. But notice all the tornadoes up in the Richmond area. Again, they can occur on the perimeter, well ahead, not necessarily right near the center itself. So it's about 7:20. We are all wrapped up on our end.